occurred after the end of the Second World War. Very interesting things happened before that, but I don't want to keep you here until 11 o'clock, so let's cut out part of it. You can get it in this book here, Prohibition of Riba in the Quran and Sunnah. And let me go straight to the end of the Second World War. The European powers who were victorious, they now called an international monetary conference and invited the rest of the world to attend. It was held in a place in upstate New York called Bretton Woods. And there were Muslim countries present. Saudi Arabia was there. It was held in 1944. And out of the negotiations of Bretton Woods emerged the Bretton Woods Agreement, which created a new international monetary system. Two important things were agreed upon at Bretton Woods. Number one, prepare yourself for it. Not all checks can be cashed. Only one check. Which one? The US dollar. Only this currency can be redeemed for gold at $35 an ounce. So this is halal. But all the rest of the paper money in the world are now checks which cannot be cashed. You could exchange them for the US dollar, check for check, but you cannot cash them. That's the first agreement at Bretton Woods. And so now it's plain. The system is 99% haram, only 1% halal. That is the US dollar, which the US government has promised that if you come with US dollars, we will convert it for you to gold at $35 an ounce. We gave our word to you, and we will keep our word, and we put it on the US dollar. Did you see it? In God we trust. Ever saw it? The second thing that came out of the Bretton Woods Agreement was that not every individual can take his US dollars to have it converted into gold, redeemed. No, 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 no. Only governments, only central banks can do it, not individuals. So are we not a part of the market? This system is now 99.9% haram. It is only 0.1% halal, meaning that a government can go to the United States and say, here are US dollars that we have, we want you to redeem it for gold at $35 an ounce. You gave your word, now keep your word. So 0.1% halal. This is the Bretton Woods Agreement. And it lasted from 1944 until 1971. Some of you, I believe, must have been born already by 1971. In 1971, September 1971, the British government, island of Tamim-Budari, the British government came in one Friday evening to Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is the US government, and said, Uncle Sam, we got $3 billion US dollars here. We want to cash these checks. You promised on the Bretton Woods, you promised to do it. $3 billion US dollars to be redeemed into gold at $35 an ounce. Suddenly, Richard Nixon couldn't digest his food anymore. Why? Because he had written more checks than he had money in his account. If I did that, or Sheikh Faiz did that, they would arrest us. But who can arrest Uncle Sam? If he gave the gold to Britain, then Monday morning, who is going to be at the front of the line? Saudi Arabia. Because they got a mountain of checks for all the oil they've been selling. And they will say, if the British wanted the gold, we better go and do it quickly. But Uncle Sam didn't have the gold to redeem all that US dollars. So Uncle Sam retired to Camp David, Richard Nixon. And then on Sunday, he addressed the world and he said, we gave our word, but we don't have to keep it. And so the Bretton Woods Agreement collapsed in September 1971. After the collapse of the Bretton Woods Agreement, the world of paper money is now 100% haram. Surely the world of Islam would recognize that. Surely the ulama of the world of Islam would recognize that. But no, it was not to be. Illa masha'Allah. It was not to be. Between 1971 and 1973, an ominous thing was happening. From $35 to an ounce, it started to move to 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And by 1973, it had reached 40. In October 1973, the war took place with Israel. And King Faisal, for whom we always say rahimahullah, imposed an oil boycott on the United States. You remember? And then all the Arab oil-producing states, they also joined in the oil boycott. Guess what happened to the US dollar? It collapsed by 400% overnight, from 40 to 160. Why? I ask this question, why? Because of an oil boycott, why should this happen? And then on the 15th of January 1980, the same thing happened again. Iran had had a revolution, and the Iranian people took control of their oil. More than that, they were threatening to export their revolution into the Gulf, where the oil is located. And then at the end of December 1979, the then Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan and took over the country. And Wall Street knew the reason why. Wall Street knew that the Soviet Union has done this because of fear of the threat posed by the revolution in Iran. And so Wall Street had their greatest fears confirmed. And on the 15th of January 1980, the US dollar collapsed to $850 to an ounce of gold. So we ask the question, why did this happen? There was no economic cause to explain it. None. The US economy was the largest economy in the world. Oil accounted for only 4% of the US economy. And the United States had enough oil underground to meet most of its own domestic needs. The United States preferred to keep its oil underground and get oil from Saudi Arabia and other countries, because this oil which was kept underground became a strategic reserve. And the oil that they got from Saudi Arabia was free of charge. You didn't have to pay for it. Did you hear that? Huh? Did you hear that? It was free. All that Uncle Sam has to do is to write checks that nobody could cash. One BMW, please, here's a check. Can I have a Mercedes, please, here's a check. I have no money in my account.